I've got 25 mind-blowing things that you can make with a Cricut machine, so let's get started. If this is the first time we're meeting, I'm Natalie Callahan, and it is my goal to help you feel more powerful in your DIYing and home decor. So over the past 6 weeks, we have been doing a Cricut giveaway, and I will be announcing the winner of that giveaway somewhere within this episode, so stay tuned for that announcement. I'm so excited to give it away. I wish I could give one to everyone who wanted one. They are so much fun to have. Today's episode is a compilation video where I've compiled some of my favorite projects that I've made with a Cricut machine. I'm going to be condensing the projects down, so if you want to see the full tutorial, I will have a list of all of those in the description box below. Now these are in no particular order, and so sit back, relax, or craft along with me. So let's get started with the first one. This was part of an IKEA hack episode, and it is the Be the Good globe. Now to keep things as condensed as possible, I'm not going to be doing a walk around of design space on all of these projects. For those of you who may want those, please refer to the original episode, which will be linked below. Or I also recently did a start to finish walkthrough of design space to walk you through the entire thing, and I will link that episode as well. For this, I simply cut out a stencil that said Be the Good in a removable vinyl, and I applied it to my black globe. Now I got this globe at IKEA, but you could get any globe and spray paint it in a black chalkboard paint and get a very similar look. Applying it to a round object is a little bit tricky, but just be patient and make V notches in your vinyl as needed to get it to fit. You will eventually get there, I promise. Once we have it all applied, then we seal all of the edges using black chalk paint so that when it bleeds, which it always does, it bleeds the original color that's underneath. Then I take some white chalk paint and go over that with 2 coats of paint. Once that dry, we peel back the stencil, and that's it. It is such a fun and easy project that really makes a statement. You could come up with a whole assortment of different sayings that you could put on a globe, but I really like how this turned out. But what do you think? Next up was the Love Mother sign that I did in honor of my grandma bear. I took the last letter that my grandma ever had wrote to my dad, and I took like the signature line, and it says something like love always mother, and then her name. And then I turned it into a stencil, and I turned it into a piece of art. So we took a wood canvas, we painted that all white. Then we put our stencil on there, and then we painted on that in a black so it looks like it's ink, but it was in her own handwriting. It was just made larger and turned into a piece of art. Then we made a frame to go around it, and it really was a special DIY, and I just am thrilled with how it turned out. And my dad got it for Christmas, and he gave it a big thumbs up. He really loved it as well. And this is one of the things that's so awesome about owning a Cricut machine, is that the kind of gifts that you can give are so custom and so personal that they really become meaningful mementos that are heirlooms. Our next DIY was a customized doormat. In order to cut it, we had to use 4 stencils. We used a hairdryer to kind of suction it to the mat, and what I did that's a little bit different than what I've seen other tutorials use, I used a spray on truck bed liner as the paint, and I figured if it was tough enough for a truck bed liner, then it should be tough enough for a doormat. So we'll see how it holds up over time, but I thought that would work out really well. And so I just love the way this turned out, and if you do the double layer rug look, I just thought it would look really, really cute on a front porch. Next up was an oversized Callahan sign. And what I did is I made a huge stencil, and it said like the Callahan family established in 2007. And I first painted it out white, and then I put the stencil down and then painted it all over black. And while the black paint was still wet, I took some cinnamon I know, sounds strange, and sprinkled it on in a random pattern, and it really mimicked the look of rust. It was really cool. And I can tell you many months later, it's still holding up. There's nothing weird going on with it. Every once in a while you do get a little whiff of cinnamon, and so that's like an added perk, right? How it turned out was amazing. It cost me less than $10 to make, and to purchase something similar at a store would have been around $200 or so. So that was a massive savings, and I love to do that on my channel. I'm always trying to get you that high-end look on a budget. That's the thing, is like that almost paid for the machine right there in that one single project. And the more you use it, the more it will pay for itself. Next up is a perpetual calendar. This is something that I did at Christmas time, and it was such a fun project. For this project, I took a small wood round and glued on a mini candlestick to use as the base for a square sign that you can get at the Dollar Tree pretty much any time of year. It really doesn't matter what it looks like. And then I painted out the inside of the sign white, and then the outside and the base of the sign black, as you see me doing here. Then I cut apart inexpensive paint sticks that you can get at any home improvement store. A 10 pack will cost you $1. I punched some holes in those with a crocodile, and then I took some craft rectangles for the numbers and I put a hole in the top middle portion of those. Then I needed all of the months and all of the numbers to complete the number tags, and I cut those out in permanent black vinyl on my Cricut machine, and I applied them to my wood tags. Then I double checked to make sure that I could complete every day of the month, and I could. And I nailed in some holes for our tags to hang on, and that's it. I love how this turned out. My kids have so much fun changing out the dates, and it's just a fun and cute little piece to have, and it was really inexpensive to make. Make sure you stay tuned. We are still yet to announce the winner of that Cricut giveaway. Now this next one is in an episode that I've yet to air, and I'm not sure if I will air the episode ever or not. I took a popcorn tin left over from Christmas and emptied it out, washed it out really good. I just took a kitchen handle that I had on hand left over from a kitchen project, and I glued it to the top of a popcorn tin, and then I sprayed out the whole thing in a white spray paint. You don't even have to have like crazy mad design skills to be able to use a Cricut machine, because there's so many affordable and sometimes free options out there for images that you can cut, and you don't have to have any special design skills. And this is the case in this one. I found this farmer's market sign. I thought it was adorable. I liked the price. I was using a free tin can, so I felt okay about spending the couple of dollars that I did, because I was still only gonna be into it like $2 or $3. In the end, I do feel like I got a little carried away on the chippy look, but my hope is to get your creative juices flowing and show you that you can turn trash like an empty popcorn tin into really cool pieces of decor. So my next DIY project that is really cool that I've made with my Cricut machine is I customized some seat covers for some dining chairs that I made over. I actually found some real authentic Pottery Barn chairs on Facebook Marketplace for 20 bucks a piece. They originally retailed for $250, so it was a massive savings. And with a little bit of a black color wash on the chair, and a fun reupholstery job where I took some white canvas, did a French stripe, added a little stencil on top. I had some really cool custom kind of French country looking chairs to go along with my French scroll table. Now I think it would also look really cute if you use their new infusible ink, and it really gets it right down into the fabric. But the vinyl looked great. It's still holding up well, and I really love how these chairs turned out. All right, my next Cricut project was I made over an old silverware box and turned it into a jewelry box. So I just spray it with gray primer that I had on hand, and I don't care about if I get it on the interior fabric or not because it's very ugly and it's going to be covered up anyway. Then I take it inside where I find center, and I was out of painter's tape, so I used washi tape instead, and I had to double it up to make the width of the stripe that I wanted. Now, I would recommend just using regular painter's tape if you have it, because I ended up having to do a little touch-up paint where it leaked in the middle. But I go ahead and make stripes using the tape as a guide. Then I take some white paint that I had on hand and paint the whole top of the box, but we leave the bottom half solid. Once it's dry, we can remove the tape and distress it. Then I take the vinyl decal, which in French loosely means all of the beautiful things I wear in a box. To prevent it from bleeding, I decided to go ahead and use Mod Podge. I would not recommend this because when I pulled back my decal, it also pulled up some of my painted lettering, which was kind of a bummer. Had I just left it alone, I think it would have peeled back much better. By the way, I would suggest cutting it on the washi tape setting since the lettering is kind of fine. So then I lined the interior of the box with some leftover fabric using spray glue and folding the edges under and using hot glue. I love how this turned out. I can store my jewelry and any meaningful mementos that I like. So including the original cost of the box, supplies and paint and everything, I would say that this is less than $5, but we'll just call it that. And I think it was worth every penny. So Joanna Gaines has that bakery sign. It's painted on brick. I've seen her do it in white and frame it out, but that vertical bakery sign is so popular, and I did kind of a knockoff of one of hers. We're just gonna paint the main piece in a white chalk paint, and the frame I decided to do in a black chalk paint for a higher contrast look. I attached my frame by using an electric staple gun with brad nails from the back side so you don't see any nail holes. Now we're ready to make our stencil. And we're going to lay our stencil down onto our finished board, making sure it's smooth, and then we peel back our transfer tape, leaving our removable vinyl on the wood piece. Paint the white chalk paint over the edge of the stencil, let that dry, and then what we're going to do is go back on top with our black chalk paint and fill in the stencil. Now when that is fully dry, then you can just peel back your stencil and reveal your bakery sign. Now in keeping with Joanna Gaines' flair, I roughed up the sign with a little sandpaper. I think it's a pretty close replica, and with the help of the Cricut Explorer Air 2, I only spent less than $5 for my version. Probably the only change I would make is to make the letters a bit wider if I were to redo this, so you may want to keep that in mind for your project. So in a recent Spring Decor episode, I did a fresh flower market stencil. Now, once you have your stencil all ready to go, just place it on the front of your crate. Now, if you've watched my channel for a while, you know that I typically at this point will seal all of the edges to prevent bleeding. But I'm not as concerned this time around because we are going to be going for more of a rustic look, and I'm going to sand it off a little bit afterwards anyway. So I just very carefully pounce on black ink chalk paint onto the stencil, and once it's dry, I peel back the stencil and then I sand it down just a bit, and then I place some floral foam in the center, but I don't even tape it into place because it was the perfect size that actually the crate itself put some pressure on the side, and I may want to use this for something else in the future. Now this is just a simple arrangement and kind of just doing a dome shape here and trying to make it look as it would in nature. So I just evenly spread this around, and then I add some springy looking greenery to kind of fill it in. Maybe I'm just partial, but I don't think Dollar Tree has ever looked so good. With a thrift store crate, a little gel stain, and some help from Cricut, I have an arrangement that I think is gorgeous, so springy, and a crate that I can use for anything I want in the future. But what do you think? Last fall, I did a wood burned tray. This was really fun because all I did is I went to the Home Depot and got a wood round, and they're about $6. And then I took a vinyl stencil for my Cricut machine. Then we took a scorch marker, which is also something that I like to use on this channel as well. And we filled in our design with a scorch marker. Then I took a heating tool and burned the image onto the tray, and it was awesome. And then I just waxed it and put on some handles that were wrapped in some twine, and it was a really awesome fall rustic DIY that was just really fun and different. So I love doing IKEA hacks on this channel, and I got a pillow cover from IKEA that was really cool. My original plan was to kind of do an image transfer, but thank heavens I had my Cricut machine because the image transfer did not work, and I ended up making a custom stencil for the pillow cover. I even had to kind of split it into two because it was so large, but it was like a French document stamp. And I put it on my pillow, and then I filled it in with a permanent marker, and it turned out so awesome, and it's still holding out great. I love this pillow. It's my favorite one on the whole couch, and it was because of my Cricut machine. And speaking of pillow covers, I've done a whole bunch of pillow covers using my Cricut machine. Getting awesome pillows with Cricut is so easy. And for our next DIY, I even knocked off this pillow from Joanna Gaines and got an almost identical look to the one that she did using my Cricut machine. Now I have to do a quick caveat on this "You Are My Sunshine" pillow because I get comment after comment after comment saying that I got the lyrics wrong. I think it says "My Lovely Sunshine." I know that it says that, and I know what the actual lyrics are. I sing it to my kids all the time, but I was trying to knock off hers identically, and hers said "Lovely Sunshine." So if you don't like that, talk to Joanna. It's not my fault. I'm sure she probably had to do it for copyright reasons or something. Sometimes you just need a really huge piece of art, and that can get really expensive. So I needed something at Christmas time, and I didn't want to spend a lot of money. I have a really hard time spending money on holiday decor because it only gets like a tiny bit of use. So my next DIY is a Silent Night, Holy Night art piece. I start with some scrap wood from my board and batten wall build. This is called Masonite, and it's very inexpensive and lightweight. You can get a 4x8 foot sheet for around $8 or $9. Our dimensions are 24 by 42 inches. I just paint the entire thing out in a white chalk paint and let that dry. Then I created a stencil that says Silent Night, Holy Night using Times New Roman font and homework font. And I made it as big as the Cricut machine would let me cut without doing anything special, which you've seen me do before, measuring 11.5 by 23.5 inches. After I apply my stencil, I seal the edges with white chalk paint, and then I go over the top of that with 2 coats of black chalk paint. Now I let that dry, and then I peel back the stencil. Now we need a frame. We're gonna just take some E6000 and hot glue and glue it into place, and we are golden. I think I've made you guys wait long enough, and now it's time to announce the winner. But before I do, I really wish that I could give everybody who wanted a Cricut machine a Cricut machine. The winner is Erica Smith. I'm so excited to give you a Cricut machine. I hope that you enjoy it and get lots of use out of it. Make sure you grab my email address in the description box and send me a message, and we will get that machine right out to you. Yay! I'm so excited. Another thing that I've made is customized monogrammed etched glasses. I just cut out a monogram on some removable vinyl and placed it on some Dollar Tree glasses and put armor etch over the top for 15 minutes. Then I removed it from the glass, peeled back the stencil, and now we have the cutest glasses, which everyone in our family loves. Who wouldn't love to have something like this? And another one that I did is I got these kind of shimmery blue tumblers, and I got some gold foil vinyl. And then I put the names of my friends on these tumblers, and they were so cute. I loved how these turned out, and they were a fun gift to give. Next up is the sign you see behind me. I could not have done this sign without my Cricut machine. A lot of people might think that I ordered this out, but I didn't, and I made it for less than $12, if you can believe that. So this sign I cut out of regular poster boards. I traced out all of the letters onto some styrofoam. Now Cricut machines can cut out quite a lot, but they can't cut out thick styrofoam. So I did end up cutting that out with a hot pen. But if I didn't have the really amazing letters on it before, it wouldn't look so professional. Now, once we got the styrofoam cut out, I wanted it to have like a more finished quality, and styrofoam's kind of bumpy and rough and it doesn't look great. So I took the original poster board and spray painted it in this gold color. And how awesome does this sign look? Just think of all the possibilities that you could do with this idea and concept. And I will link the full tutorial for that in the description box below. But I think this would look really cool to do in a kid's room. It would be really awesome in a nursery. I mean, there's just a lot of potential there. Next up is one of my favorite Cricut projects, to be honest with you. This one was so much fun. It was not super viewed just because I think it was really topical, but I hope you can take the idea of this project and kind of put your own spin on it. So I knocked off a Pottery Barn Star Wars marquee sign, and I'm telling you, is probably my best dupe to date. This one was like identical. Like honestly, I think that you couldn't even really tell the difference between my version and Pottery Barn's version, and my version was a whole lot less money. It just goes to show you like the possibilities that you can have with a Cricut machine. I love this Star Wars marquee sign. It was a lot of fun to make. Next up, I did an IKEA hack on a Hemnes dresser that was so easy. I didn't even take the clothes out of the dresser. I know that's playing with fire, but I did okay. I didn't have any drips and all was well, I promise. But we took some stickers I made on my Cricut machine, and I put on the 1, 2, and 3, and I numbered the drawers. And then we took some black chalk paint and painted over the top of it. We were a little risky, but it worked out. And then we just peeled back the sticker, and then that was it. It was so easy, so inexpensive, but completely transformed the look of the dresser, and it was awesome. So that one was a really good hack. Did you know that a Cricut machine can even engrave metal? I know, right? Is that not so cool? Well, at Christmas time, I decided as a gift, I would engrave some spatulas that I picked up at the Dollar Tree. So these were Dollar Tree spatulas that I engraved. They look like a $20 gift, and it was from the dollar store. Again, it just over time pays for itself over and over and over again. I know I'm like a brand ambassador for Cricut, but I'm a brand ambassador because I absolutely loved this product. I swear by it. Next up, I wanted to knock off some Williams Sonoma plates. This was so easy to do. I took a font that looked very similar to the inspiration one and made a stencil, like a reverse stencil. We had to reverse it because it was going on the back of the plate. And then we stuck that on the back of the plate, spray painted that a color, then we pulled it off, and then we sprayed it all over, and it was so easy to do. I got the plates at the Dollar Tree, and so I had like a little over $1 into each one of these plates, and they turned out just adorable. And there's so many possibilities for that. I've got some in the back of my mind that we might do in the future, so stay tuned for those. All right, so one of my favorite projects that I've done with my Cricut machine, honestly, and it was probably one of my top favorite Christmas DIYs was my brick North Pole sign. I had some leftover brick paneling. It was free to me. It was in my scrap pile and I decided to make something out of it. And so what I did is I kind of did like a whitewash of the brick. It was a poor paint job on purpose and it looked really cool. I just took some inexpensive flat molding and painted it black and then made a frame. And then what I did is I took a stencil that I purchased from an Etsy shop. I painted the stencil out in a celery green and it was seriously so inexpensive to make because of the scrap. I think this could definitely translate into, I mean, I could see it as like an entry sign. I think I may use this idea coming up somewhere. So I'm gonna stew on that a little bit more, but I think you'll be seeing something similar in the future that will be kind of more of a year-round idea. So watch for that. In my last mystery box challenge, I made a love sign. I first start out by staining the oval in a briar smoke gel stain and letting that fully dry. Then while it's drying, I take the welcome sign and remove the plastic on the back. Well, it's really the front, but we're gonna be using it as the back. And then I spray painted it, which was honestly kind of unnecessary. So you could skip that part and just move on to spray painting the inside part in a matte white finish. And I did 2 coats. We're gonna first do a 45-degree angle cut on one end. And now all we need to do is do it all the way around. And then we can stain it. So we are going to just use the light out of this home sign and it pops out really easy. And all we're going to do is we're going to just center this up and drill a hole. Now if it's not exact, it's not the end of the world because it's going to be hidden behind our sign. Now we take everything back inside and we are going to add white stripes on a diagonal using some washi tape. Now, since the wood was stained, we are going to use some matte Mod Podge to seal the edges to prevent paint from bleeding. Then we are going to take some white chalk paint and do 1 to 2 coats of paint. Then we're going to peel back the tape. I made a stencil on my Cricut machine that says love. This was an image that I found in their pre-made area, so it was pretty simple to put together. And I apply this. We seal the edges of the stencil by using matte Mod Podge, and then we take some black chalk paint and fill in the stencil. Now here's where I had a little oopsie-daisy. When I peeled back my stencil, it also peeled back some of my paint on my stripes. Now I'm kind of hit and miss on this happening to me, and I'm not exactly sure what is causing it, but if you have any tips for me, that would be awesome because I haven't been able to figure out the trick here. But it was an easy fix. All I did is went back in and filled in a little bit of paint with the white chalk paint, and you couldn't really tell. Once everything is fully dry, I sand it down to look a little bit more rustic, and I went ahead and did the frame while I was doing this just so that the stain that I sanded off didn't tarnish up our white backdrop. And now it's finally time to assemble it all. I take 4 of our craft cubes and glue them in areas where I know that it will be hidden by the plaque using Gorilla Hot Glue. And then I hot glue on the sign. Then I flip it over and I hot glue our tea light into place. Next it's time to attach our frame, and I use a combination of E6000 and hot glue. And that's it. Now this is mostly Dollar Tree items and some scrap wood for the frame. And if you were making this, you could easily recreate this for under $5. And I think it's really cute, and I adore how it turned out. And it looks so good with the lights off, and it also looks great with the lights on. But what do you think? Another DIY was, it was kind of like a hanging sign, and what's awesome about it is we could just switch out the sign with the season, or even make one that's like good for year round. And so what we did is we used another one of those outdoor deck spindles. So they have two different sizes of these outdoor deck spindles. One is a little bit smaller, one's a little bit bigger, and then they have the newel posts, which are obviously really large. We took the middle-sized one, and it was like $3. And then I used a whole bunch of different scrap pieces of wood and put together kind of this hanging sign, almost kind of like a for sale sign, but like on a smaller scale, but and much cuter. And we put North Pole this way, or Santa's Workshop this way. I don't even remember exactly what it was, but it really turned out cute. I was really happy with how it looked. And what I love about it is I'm going to switch out the sign, maybe with the holidays, maybe something a little bit more permanent. And it's just so flexible. So this DIY is kind of like a to be continued. So I love that. I love getting lots of uses out of something. It makes it so much more useful, and it was really inexpensive and easy to put together. And last but certainly not least, I made a bracelet with my kids' names on it using some iron-on vinyl, and I love this. It's so sweet. It's such a good way to personalize and customize gifts that are meaningful to the people you're giving it to. There are so many things that I still haven't done that I want to do with a Cricut machine. If you enjoyed this episode, here's another one that I think you'll like as well. And to all of my DIY Niners, I just want to remind you that you are more powerful than you know. We'll see you next time. Bye.